I understand that Cooley High was an inspiration.
Yeah, that was a big inspiration because Michael Schultz directed that film right here in Chicago. And that was shot up near the Cabrini Green projects. And I remember finding locations on the north side where they shot the film. So I'm a huge fan of that film. I got a chance to work with Glenn Tillman, the lead actor, on Men of Honor on that. So that's one of my favorite films.
One of the first scenes is when Mav is talking to the kids and has them put their hands on the table.
Yep.
That was chilling. How did you get them to do that? What did the kids think about it?
That's something that was in the middle of the book, and the writer, Audrey Wells, suggested that we move that in the very first scene of the film. And she asked me, have you ever had to talk before? And I told her that I have, from various family members in my life. And that's something that a lot of kids in inner cities or African American or people of color have to go through. And that's sometimes an experience that people outside the culture would never have to deal with ever. Why the talk for them is mostly about the birds and the bees, but in the inner city it's about staying alive, and that's really wanted to show up front what most people like the Carter family have to deal with.
What was the scene that got to you most, that really touched you?
I think there's a couple scenes. The one I think was the Khalil, Starr become the witness, when she witnessed the shooting of Khalil. We shot that in 2 days. It was a very emotional moment. And what made it emotional was also trying to get it right. And because you see these things on television, you see these things on YouTube, you see cops, brutality, you see people dying, and that's all goes back to the Rodney King when the videotape in Los Angeles. But how do you do it in a way where there's emotion involved, where people can have an understanding of how these events unfold and see how traumatic it could be for an individual to go through. So it was a very tough scene to really do.
Out of the car.
Yo, Starr, you okay?
Go back where he told you. Khalil, I'm not playing. Go back where... What did you do?
What was the scene that you did that you had a hard time coming out of, that affected you the most?
The shooting scene was really challenging, but less challenging because all I had to do was kind of like react as authentically as I could to what was in front of me.
Which scene though?
Probably the most challenging was the scene right after, which takes place in an interrogation room, where my character is interrogated by police directly after having witnessed her friend get shot and killed.
And what about the scene where Khalil does get shot? Was that a hard one for you to come out of?
It was hard to come out of, but it was less challenging than putting myself into the mind space of someone who's recently experienced trauma versus just kind of seeing what was happening in front of me and just being reactionary to it.
How did the Laquan McDonald verdict coming down, did it affect you at all, or the film?
Yeah, you know what, the film was done at that time. And I was just so, from being in Los Angeles in post-production and seeing this movie come out, and that was the purpose of doing a film like this, to change the narrative, to be able to open people's eyes, to see there's people's lives are involved in this. Some families have lost people, and that came to me when I was in Atlanta last week, and after a screening, someone tapped me on my shoulder, and they turned around and they said, "Thank you for making this movie," and it was the Emmett Till family. And I was just blown away. Because we used their picture in the film, we got their license, but I never met them before. But just knowing that somebody removed from that, and that's something that happened in the 50s, and now we're still dealing with that now. So I'm just glad that we are part of this movement to inspire and to educate.